What up, guys? Welcome back, Thursday edition Havana Lounge podcast. If I seem tired or appear tired, man, I'm beat down, let me tell you. The homies beat me up today on the golf course, man. But I'm going to get to that. So welcome, everybody. Thursday, 7 p.m. You know what time it is. I'm Melllow Man Ace. This is the Havana Lounge podcast, man. I want to say, everybody, come on in. Come on in, get the chat room active, get the shit popping. I want to see people talking, interacting. I appreciate you that you're here, and we're going to try to give you a great show tonight. The legendary New Jersey MC, YZ, is with us tonight. For those who don't remember YZ, that joint Sons of the Father was crazy. He is my man, one of my guys that I bond with a lot back in the early 90s. Just an all-around solid cat. So I want to say thank you to everybody for tapping in tonight. This segment of the show right here is sponsored by AV Chevy. And on that note, I want to thank all of my sponsors, Daily Ads, also for believing in the show, and our newest member of the family, Cilantro Lime Restaurant in downtown Los Angeles. We appreciate you. So with that being said, man, today I got served up crazy on the golf course. I had taken like a week off, and then we had a tea time this morning. I was fired up to get there, and then once we got on, I started out with a double bogey on a par 5. Just beat me up on the first hole, and I never recovered from that. And then on the par 4-2, I had a triple bogey. So I started out with 7s, you know. And if you know golf, you know that's hard to recover from. I never did find my mojo. The homies just took it to me. My man, Arabian Prince, really took it to another level. I think he had 3 birdies on the front side. It was crazy. My man B. Pleasy also beat me up. I think I came out of there owing like $85. You know what I mean? And so I got, you know, I was exposed today. So if I seem a little tired, people, that's what it is. But I got my go-go juice in the fridge, so we're gonna hit some of that off. And whatnot. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited nevertheless, man. It's always good to come back in and provide some content for you that I know people are tapping into. I appreciate you once again. This next segment of the show is sponsored by Daily Ads. And I just wanted to talk about this cigar right here that I took out on the golf course today. It's a Partagas Flor de Tabaco is called. And look, I know how difficult it is to put a cigar company together, much less get it out there. I have tried it. I have tried it on several occasions, only to have it fall apart by this one or that one. And it's not easy. And you know, I commend them for getting it into the golf course. But I got to tell you, this cigar, to me, it was a dog rocket for real. I don't know how long it's been sitting there at the golf course, but it seemed fresh. You know, I don't know. It's got a harsh taste. It's got a weird taste. The leaves aren't burning even, as you can see, and that's one thing I look for. Again, I don't want to shit on it too much. I know how difficult it is to put together a cigar. I'm actually working on a cigar as well right now to complement my wines. And I got to tell you, I don't know, I just couldn't rock with it. So today, this is going to get a 9 of... is Clover's one of them? Yeah? The Clover, the Diamond, the Heart, and the Spades. This is going to get the 9 of Clovers, man. Clubs. 9 of clubs. Did I say? I'm tired, people. It's the 4-leaf clover. That's what it gets. Yeah. The 9 of clubs, man. This was not doing it for me. Maybe it was just sitting there too long, and that's just what it is. If you like that cigar, more power to you, no doubt. Tonight, I stopped by the store on my way in, and I picked up this Apothic red wine from, it's called Winemaker's Blend. This is just a rich and smooth from 2019 from California. Doesn't say what part of California on the label. Doesn't say where it's come from. But, you know, they were inside the store. You know what I mean? And that within itself is really difficult to do. I know, as I've been, working my Havana Wines Company to get to that level of distribution. I get it. You know, it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. So hats off to Apothic Red and its makers for that part of it. But on the real, it's like a $17 chuck. It's kind of strong. I don't know that I'd mess with this 2 nights in a row. I know a little bit, and I can tell you that I feel that wine's gonna give me a headache. After half a cup, half a glass, maybe a full glass. But we'll see what it does. Again, hats off, respect to the makers of Apothic Red. You know, I'm going to keep on driving it home the rest of the show and see if it wears on me. And then maybe I might have a different, change of hearts. But tonight, we're going to go ahead and give that a 10 of diamonds. The 10 of diamonds card. It's not even in the aces for me. All right, so that's what it is. People, I'm your boy, Melllow Man Ace. This is the Havana Lounge Podcast. In the chat room, show me where you tapping in from. What's your city? What's your area code? Let us know what time it is. I'm your boy, Melllow Man Ace, man. Thank you again for tapping in with us Thursday night. Yo, I'm excited. I got my man YZ waiting in the wings, and we're going to bring him right in after this first commercial break. So, guys, stick with me. I won't be talking no sports tonight. However, I'm just going to get into this conversation with my man YZ. So we'll be back in 2 and 2. Mark, take us out.
Welcome back, you crazy kids. It's your boy Melllow Man Ace, and I'm excited right now to bring in my man, my brother, the myth, the legend, the man. YZ is in the place to be.
Melllow Man Ace, what's good, my brother?
Hey, man. What's up, young man?
Man, I'm good, brother. I'm good. It's so good to be on here now. Finally, our conversations are always real in depth. So I've been looking forward to this.
Absolutely, bro. Me too as well. I couldn't believe when I found you on IG. I was like, I had to take a double take because you had cut off the dreads. And I was like,
Yeah.
nah, YZ would never cut the dreads off.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that you reached out, man, because I missed you, bro. Like, I mean, we used to build, and it's been such a minute. I'm glad that we've been back in touch now, but
Indeed,
I remember our conversations even from way back when. And
back in Jack the Rapper
you meet only a few genuine brothers, man, and you always been real genuine to me.
You too, bro. That's I think why we kicked it and built like we did, you know what I mean? And I think had our labels let us get together on something back then, we could have probably made some magic happen back then.
Hold up, let me turn this up a little bit because okay. What did you just say, brother?
I said, yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I said, that we built real well back then when we were young, man, at like the Jack the Rapper conventions and stuff like that. And then I think that if our labels would have let us, you know what I'm saying, get together on stuff, we could have actually made some magic happen on wax. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Jack the Rapper because that particular Jack the Rapper, if I remember correctly, it was in Atlanta, right?
I want to say San Francisco.
Where?
San Francisco.
Oh, no, was that Jack the Rapper or was that Gavin?
I want to say it was the Jack the Rapper.
Maybe it was San Francisco. You're probably right. I know that they did a Jack the Rapper also in Atlanta as well.
Well, listen, I would never forget it because you brought me on stage to
Yes,
do Sons of the Father.
Yes. I remember that. Yo, it's funny. Your memory is crazy out, but you just, when you mentioned that before, I remember right away. Like right away, I remember that. So that's dope that we're able to share that with people now.
No, I mean, for me, man, I have a bond with certain dudes, you know what I mean? Especially when you come from like a real spitter level. Like I knew a lot of spitters like yourself, Guru, rest in peace, my man Tresh from Naughty. And y'all guys always showed me love because I think you guys knew it was more than just the A side with me. Right? And for me, I was like, accidentally I had one crossover, but I never went pop. And I think people understood and respected, like, yo, Ace is the real one. And if you turn those records over, you'll see that.
Well, it's funny, even when your music was out, bro, I never really looked at it like on some commercial type shit anyway. I always thought you were just always keeping it 100. That to me, your vibration is that way. So it's hard to it's cats be always talking about, commercial this, commercial that, but Biggie was real, but his music was commercial according to the people. But Biggie was a real brother. I mean, same thing with Pac. Pac was a real brother. And so when I thought about your music, I never looked at you as on some commercial shit. You just always just seemed like a real brother to me, like always cool, always down to earth, always like, 100 with folks. And I appreciate that when I get that from brothers, man. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times it's real pretentious. You don't know what you're dealing with.
True indeed, man. True indeed, bro. I mean, I was a fan of yours before I met you. And to hear that coming from you, man, that's that's big for me. You know what I mean? As a person, as a brother, as a human being, connecting with somebody from 3,000 miles away through a beat, you know, that's spectacular to me. But YZ, bro, let's take it case by case on these
Okay.
people. Let's go back. Let's go back because I recently found out that something I didn't know about you, and that is that you had a hand in the poor righteous teaching early on.
I did. Is
Can you
that
tell
what you
us?
want to
Can
talk
you tell
about
us?
now?
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just going back, like in this story is pretty well known now. Um, very early on in my career, after I had put out my first record, when I put out my second record, I actually did it on my own on my own record label. I ended up acquiring 50% of a label out of Trenton, New Jersey called Diversity. And the first group that we actually signed to that label was PRT. And it was very short lived because before I had actually been part of Diversity Records, Tony D and I had actually started a production company called Two Tone Productions. And I think Tone didn't really like the idea of me doing two things, even though, like, I mean, he would work with multiple artists that, I had nothing to do with. I figured business is business. Whatever you're doing on that side of the fence is your business. Whatever I'm doing on this side of the fence is my business. When we come in the middle, we come in the middle. As long as it's not affecting me. But I don't think Tony really liked it. Somehow it didn't work out between my partner Tim Baylor and or at least that was the play, that they didn't really want to deal with Tim, or they just wasn't really feeling him, and so they asked for a release, and Tim was adamant about keeping them. He didn't want to let them go, and I was just like, yo, bro, you can't hold them, like, because if we hold them, we ain't gonna be able to get no good work out of them. What makes you think they're gonna want to, and Wise was just too dope to be sitting on the shelf for me, because I mean we real close in age, and so I'm like thinking, yo, the reason I fell in love with the vibration of these brothers is the same reason I think we should be letting them go so they could find their way. And so I told him, I said, look, man, we got to let them go, and he agreed to it. We let them go, and they went on and signed a deal with this little label called Northside Records, and they put out a record called Butt Naked Booty Blessed and Time to Say Peace. And Wise and I are cool to this day. I mean, we had little issues back in the day, but it was mostly because we just didn't stop to communicate a little better. But we since been way past that. We actually we formed this group that we still haven't finished yet with Hakeem Green called Y, which is WH&Y, which is Wise Intelligence, Hakeem Green, and YZ. And I'm still waiting for us to really dig deep into this project, because I know once we get started with it, it's going to sound real crazy.
Word up, man. Hakeem Green, he's nice too. Yeah. Man, that'd be sick to hear right now. Tell me this. When it comes to dealing with PRT, were you God body?
I studied the lessons, but I never claimed 5%. I could build with the 5%ers. I mean, they would see me often, and I stop, and I'll be able to build with them just like anybody else would that was in the 5% Nation. But I never claimed the 5% Nation. I'm Muslim, and I've been a Muslim since I was 14 years old, and I wasn't always a practicing Muslim. Like, I mean, because you kind of get in, you realize that you ain't quite ready for the lifestyle of it, and I just learned through the ahadiths that there's certain things that once you realize that you are Muslim, that if you do these things, while you're doing these things, you are not a Muslim right then. It doesn't mean that you're not a Muslim. It just means at the moment. I mean, the ahadiths are crazy, man, because I mean, when you read them, you know, there's a lot of pathways and rules and regulations, and you know, and I think as long as you follow the path, as long as you follow the rules, you know, you'll kind of get there. And I'm sure I'm not any different than a lot of Muslims that are out there. I mean, because the religion is very peaceful, but at times, like I mean, you know, it could be very tight. Like I mean, for instance, I'll give you a prime example. For me to be making the kind of music that I make, at the time, I doubt very seriously if I could consider myself a Muslim doing certain parts of that. You get me? And then there are other times when I feel like I'm making music that I could consider myself that at the particular time. Now, for me, I know I'm a Muslim all the time. I can't, that's not going to change. But because I'm a practicing Muslim and I understand what it is to be Muslim, at the end of the day, that practice is almost like going to an AA meeting, man. You know, you got to do it daily. You know, it has to just one day at a time. And you can only strive to do the best you can do.
Indeed. You know, I was raised Christian and growing up, coming up, you know, coming from Cuba and all that, from the West Indies and stuff like that. And as I got into hip hop and in the music industry, I felt real torn. There was like a spiritual battle within me that seemed to always tear me apart or tear me away from music, or like, it kind of made me feel guilty for taking part in the music industry. Now,
yeah, I know what you mean.
There were times I had to battle myself to go through a show, knowing that I was going to probably hit 3 Slimmies after the jam, right? And so there was a point in my life that I had to really learn how to take religion and put it to the side so that I can just focus on who I had to be as a person without all that guilt. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I understand, brother. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's funny. My household, my family's household is Christian. Both my parents are devout Christians. I mean, it's funny. Now, this is weird. Remember, I told you, I said I became a Muslim at 14. Before that, you know, I was invited to go to this church. I was probably around 11, 12 years old. And that same church that I was invited to, I invited my parents to. My parents are still members of that church to today. My dad is a deacon at that church. My mother is a sister at that church right now.
Yeah.
And so and you know, and people know, like, you know, that the Muslim faith, the Christian faith, and Judaism, Islam, and Christianity are sister faiths. So, I mean, you know, a lot of people can't swallow that idea. They can't, you know, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to believe that their way is the only way.
Right.
There are times in my life, even as a Muslim, where I even question Islam. And I know it's bad because at the end of the day, we talking about faith here, but I'm being honest with you because you're my brother.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there are things that I don't necessarily know if I could swallow. And, you know, because I still have a brain and my brain is logical. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right because it's logical. It just means that I will have questions sometimes. And because I have questions, it's hard to talk to somebody of faith.
Yes.
Of faith and talk about questions, because they say, yeah, walk down there and close your eyes. And because you know, we two part, man. We come from the streets. You can't close your eyes in the streets. You can't. Like, I mean, you can't walk blindly, you know, in this world out here, because if you do, don't look to be around too long.
Indeed.
And I want to be here.
True indeed, brother. Guys, we're going case by case with the one and only my brother YZ right now. As you can tell, these are the type of builds that we have. These are the types of conversations that I get into with my brother, man, and we're able to bounce ideas back and forth to each other. And so this is nothing different. You're just ready to how we get down. So YZ, man, tell me this. Before we go too far left or right on everybody, and we get into our own zone, how did you go about when you put out Sons of the Father? Was that your own label, or was that a record deal? Was that Atlantic Records?
No. Well, the stuff that I put out on my label was In Control of Things, Thinking of a Master Plan,
Yes.
and this joint called
Who's the
and
man?
the joint called,
Who's the master
yeah,
plan?
yeah, absolutely. And that led to labels. That led to other labels coming to us to want to do deals with us. One of the labels that reached out to Timmy was Tough City Records.
Yeah.
And he came to me. He was like, "Yo, it's this label out of New York called Tough City." I said, "I know who Tough City is. That's Mark the 45 King and them guys. And, you know, I know who they are." He's like, "Yeah, he wants to meet with us about doing, you know, a deal with you." And I told Timmy right then, I was like, "Yo, I don't want to do that." I said, I don't want to put nothing out on Tough City." And he was like, "Well, why not?" I said, "Bro, we really just getting our feet wet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, let us live this thing out a little bit and see where it can go." But I think with Timmy was probably about maybe 10 years older than me. And, you know, you figure I'm 17 and maybe just about to turn 18. And he was just real adamant about doing this label. Now, back then, I didn't know it, but in hindsight, I knew what it was. It was getting bigger than he could handle it. And, you know, he wasn't going to tell me that. So he needed a buffer. He needed somebody to come in that was going to get behind these records, because he didn't know what to do with them anymore. They were getting bigger than him. And so we went over to Tough City, had a long conversation. I told Aaron we have to do a production agreement with them. And we ended up doing a deal with them. I told Aaron I would change the label, man, if we do this. And we did. Like we put, not to say that Tough City wasn't on the map as far as New York is concerned or the tri-state area is concerned,
yeah,
but we took Tough City and spread it out. And people across the country now knew who this label was, because we were everywhere, man. Like, I mean, you know, think about it. I met you. We were in we were out on the West Coast. A lot of the artists that were on Tough City before me, they had never left the East Coast.
Interesting. Yeah, we definitely knew what you were up to. You know, my crew, Cypress Hill and the whole thing, we were feeling it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we dug in the crates early on for a lot of the East Coast stuff. And when it comes to Lakim, Shabazz, Gangstar, even Brand Nubian, you know what I'm saying, yourself, especially for some reason, a lot of the 5% MCs really stuck with my DNA, right? Now, I didn't know what none of that was back then, because on the West Coast, we didn't have a parliament or anything like that, that I know. And West Coast was more about shoot 'em up, bang, bang, where most East Coast groups were about peace, love, unity, coming together as brothers. You had, even the Zulu Nation before all the mumbo jumbo came through, and a lot of the things they went on to suffer. But it led me to become more of a scientist for hip hop, to understand the different dialects and dialogues that you can have with different people. What I mean by that is that if you talk to a 5%er, you're going to go knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, freedom, power, power, refinement, equality, God. You know what I'm saying?
Build, destroy,
born, all these things.
Build, destroy, born's our cipher for sure. Absolutely.
The arm, leg, arm, head, And
Right.
then if you're talking to a Zulu guy, it's more like, yo, peace, Aki, where the Malikas at? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Peace, love, unity, and you get the hug with the embrace. You know what I mean?
No,
like
I do.
That.
I do. I don't necessarily know if everybody was on some come together type stuff, except that I do know that there were units that would get together and piece their unit together, and they would kind of like you had the native tongues that
Right.
And the funny thing is I was down with the native tongues, even though I was never a native tongue. I was down with the native tongues. You had Black Watch, which had X-Clan and ISIS and Queen Mother Rage. I was a part of Black Watch. You had Flavor Unit. They had several groups, so you had crews that were doing different things. Like you mentioned, Brand Nubians. Even before Pooh Bah was part of Brand Nubians, I used to love Masters of Ceremony. And Masters of Ceremony was the shit. And I used to love listening to Don Barron and Pooh Bah rock.
Yeah.
And then when he became a part of Brand Nubians, I was like, yo, this is what's up. Because the movement was really about, I don't necessarily know if it was really about, I guess a portion of it was about peace, but I think a lot of it was about growth. A lot of it was about understanding self and knowledge of self and being able to use that knowledge of self to grow, to better yourself and to figure out a way to make it through this harsh, cruel world we live in. And I think that, I think we, just like the people that came before us, they laid the foundation for us. And I think that the golden era, laid another foundation for the era that came after us. Because, and it's just like any household, you have generations. Let's say you go back 2 generations where your grandfather lived a certain way. He probably never went to school. He had to work. Then his son was probably the first to go to high school. You get me? And then that person's son was probably the first to go to college. True. Well, I think in hip hop, I think it kind of had a very similar dynamic. A lot of people probably won't talk about it that way because nowadays, when you think about it, every generation kind of gets just a little bit easier. And when it gets easier, it makes it worse for the generation to come. You get me? Absolutely. Because it's bad that it's that way, but because it's easier, there's always more money around that time. So the person that sacrificed everything, that had to go through everything, they had less money. Then there was a little more money, and then now you look at the generation now, we've made it so the money comes easier for them. And it would just be good to see more of our generation embracing these young brothers. Because they get that game from us, whether they like it or not. Whether they understand it or not. There wouldn't even be a foundation for them to even walk on if it wasn't for us, just like if it wasn't for, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five or Kool Herc and Bambaataa, we wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. You understand? So
absolutely. Yeah.
So I just think that we get so lost into the idea of it's me, I did, I made this, to be honest with you, man, we are nothing without each other. That's why it was easy for me to embrace Cypress Hill, to embrace you, to embrace what was happening on the West Coast. I was never one of those East Coast, West Coast dudes that think like we are people, black and brown, and and at the end of the day, if I can't love my folks, then I don't need to be doing this. I don't need to be doing this.
That's dope, man.
I hate to get into a soliloquy about it, but that's just how I feel about it.
No. I'm glad that you did, because that's a great disposition to have as a human being. You know what I mean? Because so many times we can get lost with neighborhoods, rivals, or turf wars, or you like the Yankees, I like the Dodgers type of thing, where even the slightest divisions can be looked upon as exactly that. And so that might keep us apart, but I love it when I find brothers, man, that can just build on that type of level. You know what I mean? Can you hear me good? Do I need to turn myself up a little bit?
No, I can hear you. And plus I feel your vibration. I feel your vibration. Like, I mean, I consider you a good friend of mine, my brother. I mean, I like certain people you meet, man, and they're just a part of your DNA. After, like you said, I'm a part of your DNA. There's certain brothers that you meet that they're forever there. Just like, and this is probably gonna be seen like it's a little off the beaten path. We go through different relationships with women. Some of them stick, some of them don't. And even though they might not be around, right? There's something that happened between y'all that kept her in your memory, that kept her in your heart, that kept her in your DNA, your blood. Well, I think the same holds true for brothers. If there's true brotherhood there, you can't escape it. It's like, so either you can accept it. You hear that?
Yeah.
That's gunshots.
Oh, I thought they was knocking on the door.
You hear that? Come out of there. Come out of there and go down there. Because that was in the front, right? Yeah, go down there. Yo, that's crazy. I don't ever hear that around here.
So they dumping in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I'm in like a area where you just don't really get that. So that right there didn't sound too swift. And it was probably like about, that was about maybe.
You want to take a time out and go see what it is?
Yeah, just let me find out what's going on.
I'll go ahead and cut to a commercial break and come back.
All right, 1 second.
Guys, you tuned into the Havana Lounge podcast with my man YZ, in a place to be with the HCE. That's just how it be. We're going to take a commercial break and come back in 2 and 2 with my man YZ. All right? Peace. Welcome back, guys. Melllow Man Ace with my man YZ. You're tuned into the Havana Lounge podcast. Thank you for hanging out. Get questions ready. If you have any questions in the chat room for my man YZ, go ahead and load them up, and we'll try to get to them. Once again, man, always a pleasure to chop it up with you, bro. I remember when we first got back in communication, man, I think we stayed on the phone talking shop for about 3 hours. And that's the type of energies that I think kinetically brung us together, right? And so let's just keep it going, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, like I say, man, talking to you is easy, man. You're a good brother. I love sharing conversation with you and hearing your stories and hearing what you're doing. And I'm real proud of what you're doing. I'm good. It's good to see that you're out there really doing your thing.
Yeah, no, I'm having fun with life. There was times in there, how this rap business can be. There was times there, where things weren't always so lovely. You know what I mean? Especially when the record faded black a little bit and people think you fell off or whatever. These types of periods show who you are as a man, as a person. Because you might have just stepped off a little bit, take care of your children, make sure they're getting to school, and do that for a little while and put the business to the side a little bit, especially financially if you're okay, right? But hip hop and business is so unforgiving at times, right? And the minute you take that time away to go do that, they'll go to the next guy and the next kid who's slamming on next on the radio. And next thing you know, you're a forgotten, person in this thing. With that said, what to you is like your least favorite part of the industry, of the music business?
My least favorite?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, man, my least, are you talking about now or are you talking about earlier?
In general.
All right, let's start earlier.
Okay.
I never liked the fact that the major companies who got involved with this music business always treated artists like cattle. I never liked that. I never liked the fact that they always took more than the lion's share of the profits and proceeds, and artists, for the most part, even now, when you look at artists who sold millions and millions of records, you got artists out here struggling just to get by. I never liked that. And so one of the things that I was always talking about back then in the 90s was a 50-50 split. Whenever I would go and talk to labels, it was always about this should be 50-50. Back then it was unheard of. And then shortly thereafter, after things kind of changed in the industry, they came up with this thing called the 360. And the 360 was supposedly supposed to be that 50-50 deal. I always thought that it was always best for an artist to be independent. And so if it were up to me, and like it is right now, we are finally living that reality, that you literally can be independent and you can figure out a way to make a living on your own. And this dream I had back then, it was because that's where I started. I started out doing my own stuff and wanting to spread that and bring on people and let them be able to do their own thing. Today, if I had to pick anything that I don't like about the industry right now, we kind of touched on it a little bit. I don't think that we embrace each other enough. I think that there's too much distinction, too much separation. And it's the same old adage that they do with the races. You understand? It's the same thing. I mean, you get a power that's involved, and what they do is they create a wedge. They did it with their East Coast, West Coast thing. They did it with the knowledge against the streets, gangsters in the knowledge. You know, they do it every time. And right now, it's the young and the old. It's the old and the new. And at the end of the day, man, in the 90s, man, you could see a Lauryn Hill do a record with an Aretha Franklin, somebody that was way before her. And yet she was still able to do that, come up with good music. And see, that's the vibration that I would really like to see now. I don't think that we see enough of it. I mean, you might get a few people here and there. Like I get people call me all the time to do verses for them. But I got to be honest with you, I don't, I'm not one of those persons that just jump in the booth with anybody, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I not to say that I think I'm better or anything like that. It's just that it has to come from a place where I feel that it's going to be worth doing it. And I don't necessarily mean worth money. I mean worth the effort, and that we're going to do something that's going to make the difference. And so like when you and I want to do what we talked about, because to me, that's worth its weight in gold to me. Whether it no one ever hears it now or they hear it when I'm dead in my grave, because to me, I know it's going to be worth that. And the reason I know that is because brothers like you, brothers like myself, man, we made timeless music. If we didn't, we wouldn't be talking right now. We made timeless music. And there are a lot of brothers who made music, but we don't hear nothing from them. We don't care to hear from them. They came and go. They came and went. And I think that, and I hate to say this, there's a lot of what we're hearing today that 20 years from now, we won't even care about it. It won't, because music comes and goes so fast these days. It's like every year somebody else, somebody different. And so you're gonna have just a few of those artists that are of today that will get, that light. And then, but out of all of the tens of thousands of acts that we hear, we'll probably get a handful of them that we remember. And we might get a song that we remember. But, and I think it's because everything is so cookie cutter, that everything is so, it's almost like if you heard one, you heard it all. And not to say that there isn't some differentiation between them, because I like the music. I think that it has a good vibration. I think that these youngsters are really, really good at what they do. What I hate is that the creativity kind of had left the room. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. My pops was on his cell phone. He's 88 years old. Yesterday he's on the phone and he found some reggaeton group, accidentally on his phone, right? And he's telling me, why don't you do some reggaeton, Because
Right.
I take care of Pops now in his older age. So he lives with me. And I said, Pops, there's a couple of dynamics with that.
Right.
One is reggaeton all sounds the same. The rhythm is the same. Now they're doing the auto-tune with it. That's the same. And back in our time, it wasn't like that.
No.
Public Enemy didn't sound like Run DMC. Run DMC didn't sound like YZ. YZ didn't sound like Tribe Called Quest. Quest didn't sound like Jungle, even though they were a clique. Melllow Man Ace didn't sound like Kid Frost.
Yeah.
Now it's that, and they beat it and beat it and beat it into you. So I had to explain to him the difference and why it's important not to do something when it's trending. Because by the time you get in, that trend is over. And so you never want to be a trend follower. You want to set the trend. You want to be the guy that, like myself, don't mean to pat myself on the back, delivered this Spanish and bilingual thing into the game. Now, 30 years later, they still doing it. But I'm not going to join them. And I'll make that type of record on my own accord when I feel it. Not because it's going to make me $1 million or whatever, or the possibility of. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I think we're a lot the same in that sense. So tell me this, bro. To you, when you look at your catalog,
Now look at what?
when you look at your musical catalog, Want me to turn the mic up a little bit? Turn it up a little bit. When you look at your musical catalog.
Oh, the catalog. My catalog?
Your catalog. Okay. What are some of your favorite? Give me 3 of your favorite joints that maybe didn't catch as much rec as you would have loved for them to have. You know what I mean?
A record that I love of mine that, you know, diehard YZ fans may know, but never really reached out to the masses. I did a record called When the Road is Covered with Snow. That's one of my favorites. That was on an EP that I did after I did my first album. Also on that same EP, there was a joint called Crocodile Dundee that I did.
Oh, that's one of my joint favorites of yours. Absolutely.
Yeah, that EP to me was dope. I mean, because what it did was it kind of gave me my first introduction to really like remixing projects. I did a joint called Tagging It Up on there. That was real dope to me. Yeah. If you go to the second album, there's a joint on that album called Life Under Pressure. That's one of my favorite records. And, you know, really, to be honest with you, when I did that album, I wanted the album to be dark like Return of the Holy One. Return of the Holy One to me was crazy because it didn't sound like anything. It didn't look like anything visual wise. That was where I wanted to go with the whole album. But my manager at the time and friend and partner and Godfather's Pee Wee Kirkland, he was like, yo, you can't have a whole album sound like this. And I was just like, for the first time, I got somebody telling me what I shouldn't and should do. And if it had been a label head, I wouldn't have listened. But because Pee Wee was my partner and we did everything together, I took his advice. And so the album didn't turn out. I mean, I like the album. I don't love the album. I'll just be honest with you. Yeah. I love portions of the album. Like there's a song on there called Second to Nobody. That's one of my favorites. It's like as soon as the album come on, Second to Nobody is one of my favorites on that album. Return of the Holy One is one of my favorites on that album. People would say the ghetto's been good to me, but I'm gonna tell you, when I did The Ghetto's Been Good to Me, I wrote that record as a joke to get back at Pee Wee, because after I had did everything, the album was done. Pee Wee told me that he didn't think that we had a single yet. And mind you, the first single off that album was Return of the Holy One, which was number 1 on BET for 10 weeks in a row. And so when he told me that we didn't have a single on the album, which I thought should have been Life Under Pressure, it kind of it upset me a bit. So I pulled my car over. I told Pee Wee to drive. He was like, what? I said, drive. I'm going to write you a single right now. Didn't have music for it, didn't know anything. But I was upset. So I grabbed some tissue and stuff out the side of the side of the car, started writing this song. And I was just like, what about The Ghetto's Been Good to Me? And he was like, now that's what I'm talking about. And I was just like, here it is. I'm trying to throw darts at him to get him upset. And he loved the idea. And I wrote the rhyme like on some real simple, not caring about anything kind of deal. And it ended up being one of my biggest records. And but to me, I couldn't, I like the record now, but when I did it, I couldn't stand that record. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I did an album dedicated to Pee Wee called The Legend of Floyd Jones. To me, pound for pound, storytelling wise, lyrically, it's the best album I've ever done. Why? because for the first time, I went in with a concept, stuck with the concept, and it showed me how to develop a project, almost like that painting on the wall right there, and from cover to cover. And I knew when I was done that it was going to sound like a movie soundtrack, because that's what it was supposed to be. That whole project, I love it. A lot of people probably don't even know that project.
Yeah.
But when I put it out, the reviews were fantastic. But guess what? Everybody was like, "Yo, now this is some real pimp shit here." Whoever wrote this is the reviews now. Whoever wrote this, I know they live in this life. You know, such and such and such and such. Now, mind you, you know my life a little bit better than others, so I want to go ahead and go divulge all that here. But what I'm saying to you is, even though it got all these great reviews, only a handful of people on the big scheme of things will be able to tell you about that record. Yeah. Then I did a record called, I did an album called Muad'Dib. Now, Muad'Dib to me is conceptual. I went in, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and there are a lot of jewels on that album to me. Shit. Hello on that album is dope. You Know Me on that album is dope. Horizon on that album is dope. Man, it's a bunch of them on there. Do You is a fire. It's fire. And if you never heard it, what I need to do is I need to send it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. I mean, it's on Spotify and it's everywhere. But you know, when people check for YZ, man, they check for they don't even check for the production that I do for people. They check for Master Plan. They check for The Ghetto's Been Good to Me. They check for Second to Nobody. They check for, Return of the Holy One. But those songs that I mentioned were some of my favorites. I didn't say anything off the first album, but I have to honestly say, on that first album, Thinking of a Master Plan which was a B-side for us. It wasn't even supposed to come out. We never even did an instrumental to it. We never even, but in hindsight, I'm glad I did the record because, like even you, when I said Thinking of a Master Plan, it come right to mind. And I think it was one of those moments in my life where God was in the room and was able to share things that I didn't even know about, and they came to pass. And so I'm glad that I wrote that record. Yeah, I want to say In Control of Things too. In Control of Things was a good record.
Oh, man. Anyway. Good to hear you recollecting on things like that. I'm glad I asked that question.
One more, Dead Love. Dead Love off the second. Dead Love off the second album was a good song.
Yeah. Dead Love. Everybody go check those records out and see what the man is talking about. You locked in with my man YZ, my brother from a long time ago, man.
Yes.
Good to have my brother on here tonight, on the show tonight. We're going to continue going case by case. Tuned into the Havana Lounge podcast, people. My man YZ been dropping gems and jewels. So go check out the stuff he's been talking about. If you haven't heard this stuff that he's talking about, these songs, go bless your ears. Go get your ears blessed one time. YZ, man, tell these people what the Y and the Z stand for.
Why is a question often asked by people who don't know. And Z, which is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, or 1, 2, 3, is actually the answer to the question.
Zigzag Z.
Yeah, zigzag Z. So why is the question often asked by those who don't know? And Z is the answer to the question.
Yes, indeed. Peace, man. I love when I get these kinds of real real hip hop conversations with real hip hop guys. It's rare now since we're all spread out, we're grown, we got the kids, wives, and the ex-wives, and we're in different states now. We don't see each other as much, you know. But when you get a conversation like this going, man, it really reminds you of why you started to do this, because I never in a million years would have thought that, 30 years ago, we go fast forward 30 years and we'd be talking to each other on a computer.
You know what I'm saying? For
You
real.
know what I mean? And such is life, man. You never know. And back before they turned hip hop into a password.
Yeah,
will.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You really
it's funny.
got
Like
this,
I've been in business. Like you, I've been in business a long time. And there are certain things that I kind of look back on where I think I could have made better decisions. There was a time I was in Salt Lake City doing a project for the Mormon Tabernacle. And this guy that I met, he was starting to get involved with the cellular phone business with Sprint. Came to me and said, yo, we should open up a bunch of Sprint stores. And I passed on it. That dude right now is like a multi-millionaire. And
he ain't taking your calls no more.
well, so what that taught me, because I always was one to feel like I was at the cutting edge of things. So when Bitcoin started, I got involved early. Before all of this changes, I got involved early. I've always just been a part of business. So when I think about you, we talk about that growth, right? We talk about here, we started one particular place and we never know where we're going to be. You don't never know. But the beauty of this today, right now, Ace, is that we're able to do it, that we're able to actually do what the Jetsons used to do on their cartoon.
Right.
That we're able to, you and I are able to do it, and we're alive and healthy to do it. Because I think people take these things for granted. We take health for granted. We take our families for granted. We take our lives for granted. A big thing now is this whole race card that people are playing. I mean, racism, man, when you think about it on a whole, brother, I mean, it's taught to people. Hatred is taught to people. Conditioning. We get conditioned to do a particular thing, and it starts when we're young, and we don't know how to let it go. I mean, we sleep on one side of the bed for 10 years. Somebody come along and say, I want to sleep on that side of the bed. It makes you real uncomfortable because you want to sleep on that side of the bed. That's what you're used to. I think people just really need to get out of their comfort zone, my brother. I think for me, that's a big part of the solution here. Just like us being able to do this right now. This is part of the solution. Communication is part of the solution. A lot of times people, they shut off people. They put a wall there because they don't want to hear that shit. They don't want to hear that this might be a better way. They don't want to hear that, hey, I might have been wrong about something. Or they don't want to admit that I might be wrong right now. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. To be honest with you, tell me one time you know somebody that's been successful without failing. Name one. So we fail and we get up and we do it again. But for you and me, my brother, to me, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us, you and me, brother to brother, to connect and to do something that maybe somebody else should have did, but they just didn't understand how valuable that connection was. You understand what I'm saying, brother? And so I think, and I only use that Sprint story to say, I don't want to ever miss that opportunity again, whether it be to, and I see, I only use the multi-million dollars as an example to say, hey, riches don't necessarily just have to be finances. Riches has to come from love and respect. Give me love and respect over everything else, and I'm richer than anything else. And the beauty of you and I is we've always respected one another. We always had love for one another, admiration for one another. I always want to make sure and pray for you and your family to make sure that you're doing well for yourself. See, to me, there's nothing richer than that. Nothing. There's nothing that's richer than that. And I think that's what's missing from today. That's what's missing from today. We talked about it a little earlier, but you know, people always talking about the bag. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, Mike Tyson said it best. He said, if you think money is going to make you happy, having a whole lot of money is going to make you happy, I could tell you ain't never have a whole lot of money before.
Yeah.
Because that's so true. Happiness comes from love, honor, respect, loyalty. But money ain't never going to bring happiness. It might make a bill go away. It might make, you know, your car run a little better. But at the end of the day, when you can buy everything under the sun, except for respect, except for love, except for loyalty, then what? Where are you at that point?
Take him to church. Why is he taking to church?
No, I don't want to take him to church. I'm just, and whether this makes it to the show or not, is this is me talking to my hermano. Feel me?
Just a figure of speech, bro. Just a figure of speech. You know what I mean?
I know.
Yo.
I heard it before, but at the end of the day, brother, like I don't want to miss the opportunity. I don't want to miss the opportunity. So many years have gone by, my brother, where you and I should have been communicating. And so when I say things like this, it means like I understand the value of today. Bro, you realize how many people we lost this year already?
Yeah.
The year ain't even up yet.
Yeah.
People think it's over yet, and it's not. Hey, just as simple as those gunshots we heard a little bit earlier. Man, what if one of those bullets would have flew in here and hit me while I'm on this interview right now? You feel me? Like, I mean, like nothing's promised, Doc. So I don't ever want to miss the opportunity with you again, my brother. I don't. And I'm putting it out there so you know, because this is about you. Who hear this? I don't care. I'm talking to you. I don't ever want to miss the opportunity again.
YG is the place to be, party people. Yeah, what it is. Go check out the catalog. Check out the music. The man is always been genuine.
Yo, yes, and the pleasure is mine.
Oh, hold on, I gotta give you your flowers.
I thought you were saying bye.
No. I'm about to bring the flowers.
Oh, okay.
There's very few brothers in this game, man, that you can connect with, not see for a while, they get right back on it. YZ is one of those guys to me, and he's in a hand of five, but it's only one. Just a priceless individual, A+ character, always just a natural born rhyme spitter, party rocker, and I'm blessed to have this brother as my brother in this music thing. Probably one of the, if not the best guy I've met in the music business. I've met a lot of people. And so with that said, YZ, tell my listeners, bro, how they can find you nowadays, where you're at, because I believe you're in Atlanta, yes?
Okay. I want to tell your listeners a couple of things because I want them to know what I'm doing. Okay.
Okay.
First off, I have a clothing store in Salt Lake City. It's called Even Out. And Even Out, we have 3 clothing lines in that. Me and my man Joe Baca. Now, Joe Baca, when I told him I was going to be talking to you, he was like, "Yo, make sure you let the brother know that your partner is a Chicano MC." He was like, "Let him know." I was like, "No, those are his words." But Joe, you know, he's an MC. That's how we met, and then we started building on some things. So we have a couple of clothing lines out of there. One is called Adi Maru. The other is called Glitchy Palms, and the other is called 88, which is 801, which is the area code in Salt Lake City. So that's one way. And the website for Adi Maru is actually getting for Even Out is actually getting made right now, but all of those clothes are available right there.
Nice.
I also do a bunch of promotion. One of the records that I'm promoting right now is this record called Roll Up by this dude named Dollar Bill out of Houston. Real dope. Available on all the music platforms. It's called Roll Up by Dollar Bill. DOLLA BXLL. Real ill. I don't know if you remember the man Lux out of Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
Lux, yes. Lux is back at it. And you know, Lux is shooting movies and everything, man. Like he is doing his thing. So I've been out helping him promote.
Talk about Lux freestyle battles with Cypher.
Yeah, actually, yes. Lux is really doing some big things right now. And so like I like to always talk about him because I think he's one of those unsung heroes out of Philadelphia that, you know, he brought the Ram Squad and did so many other things out of Philadelphia. And I think a lot of those brothers stand on his back, but they don't understand, you know, that how important that brother is. So I always try to, like, you giving me my flowers and I try to give you yours as well because they're so well deserved. He's one of those brothers that I like to give flowers to. Also, one other thing, I partner with a company called Uncolonized Sea Moss. And that's a real big thing. So if you go to go to Instagram or Uncolonized Sea Moss, if you're into sea moss products, you can get at your boy. For sea moss, with it, you can make your own products. If you want to do, we can wholesale with you. We can do a bunch of stuff. So Uncolonized Sea Moss, everything is coming out of Tanzania, purple, black, gold, and full spectrum sea moss. To get at me on Instagram, I am the Black Bank. On Facebook, it's Anthony Deshaun Hill or Anthony Hill or Ali Nur al-Din, Ali Sahid Nur al-Din, which is my Muslim attribute. The best way is the Black Bank. On Instagram. Actually, I'm gonna be doing a lot of work on the Black Bank, because I also have another Instagram that I've been working on because of this website I'm trying to build called the BLM Gang. And BLM, a lot of people is real big on this whole, Black Lives Matter. But to me, I don't want to get into the idea of saying, because people say all lives matter. We already know that all lives matter. We already know that. I think that what they were trying to say with Black Lives Matter is, if all lives matter, why is it that these brothers, black and brown, could get killed in the street and no one cares about them? And so I think people, they try to lessen the blow by saying, hey, all lives matter. All lives should matter. That should go without saying. But if all lives matter, that should include Black lives too. And so the BLM Gang is about, Black love and Black lives and brown love and brown lives and all love and all lives, because all lives do matter. But if Black lives don't matter, then don't say all lives matter, Because if Black lives don't matter, their life is a life too. So when you say all lives matter, would you have said all lives matter had they not come up with Black Lives Matter? You understand where I'm coming from, Mike?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, like it's almost like you play these words of trickery. You play these games of trickery with people when the truth is the reason you're going out there talking about all lives matter is because you got another agenda. And a lot of that has to do with gay lives. A lot of that has to do with, other things, And I'm sitting up here watching it and I'm like thinking, look, Black Lives Matter, everybody should stand up for that, because if Black Lives Matter, when they are really, really getting the worst end of the stick of it, then of course everything after that has to matter. No one's trying to say that all lives don't matter, because if Black lives matter, of course all lives matter. Because guess what? I don't know a Black man on the face of this earth, just like I don't know a white man on the face of this earth. They don't even exist. But if Black is the true absence of color, that means that everything is in that absence. Everything is in that darkness. You understand where I'm coming from, Aki? And so I always feel like people, they try to lessen the blow or try to make you feel like, you should not represent a particular thing. But you never had to worry about all lives matter because it never applied to you, because we start using words like privilege. Like privilege. The truth is, privilege is what we give it. Like, it's a privilege for me to be here with my man Melllow Man Ace right now. It's a privilege. Not everybody's going to be able to do what I'm doing right now. It's a privilege to be here. And so, people, we really need to stop saying that others have privileges that we don't have. Because the truth is, if that's the truth, then we have privileges that they don't have too. That because there's certain places I can go that other people may not be able to go. That's a privilege. And it should be okay that I have a privilege that others don't have. But if I turn that into God, like if I say, hey, their privileges should be my privilege too. I got to do everything that they do. I got to be everywhere that they are. I got to walk and talk and breathe. Every time they do something, I got to do it. All you're doing is lessening yourself.
Indeed.
I love my man, Melllow Man Ace, because he is who he is. He ain't got to be nobody else. He could be this or that. He could be white or Black. He could be anything in between. But at the end of the day, he is who he is. And it's a privilege to be here. And if you don't never make it to this show, don't make my privilege of being on this show why you hate me. You understand where I'm coming from? Like, I don't know if people really get the analogy, but I see you get it. Don't hate me for the privilege. Don't hate me for the privilege. So people need to stop hating on these folks because they feel like, hey, that judge looked like that person over there, so he a little softer on that person because he look a lot like that person. Well, if that's the case, then we just need to put more Black and brown judges in there so we can have the same privilege. You get me?
Understand. As a matter of fact, I overstand. And, that's just how
I just hate it, man.
This brother, this is how it is, people. When you're building with YZ and Melllow Man Ace, if you were in the cipher here today with us, we would be asking you to add on.
Add on, that's right. I don't know what your other people talk like with you on these shows, man, but I know we talk. It's gonna be a different kind of conversation.
You're the first one I get to, really build with on that level of intellect. You know what I mean? Because
I hope it ain't too much, man.
Most people ain't real hip hop like that. You know what I mean? Most people ain't real hip hop like that, and it definitely ain't culture scientists. You know what I mean? Like we are, and so it's hard to find that type of dialogue with a lot of people. Now, had this been if we were in Bedford-Stuyvesant, you know, we might have had 10 brothers already adding on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to the point where one of us might have walked off. Like, all right, forget it, man. I can't get a word in edgewise. But that's not the deal here tonight. And the other thing is, you know, the West Coast. This is something that I see for myself as a b-boy minded guy. There's not enough b-boy minded people. You know, you got your 9-to-5ers, you got your 1%ers, you know, people like this that for the most part, they'll go to work, come home, grab dinner, go to sleep, repeat. Whereas the type of shit I'm on is don't follow a script. You know what I mean? Don't belong to anything. Be your own independent God. Study all things. And don't close your mind at the first thing that's get thrown at you. Discover all things. Knowledge 720. Feel me? And so then now you become more of a scientist and well-rounded. Like, for instance, early on in my career, I traveled all over the world. Is that to say that things that I saw weren't good because my country is the best? No. No. And so I always want to stay open-minded to information that could build a better me going into tomorrow, right?
Right.
And that's just the way I keep it. I don't belong to any one thing, for I am all things.
That's right. I agree with you, my brother. I think that it's a bad thing that people feel like they can't. They're so afraid of getting outside that box.
Now, the other thing that I'm seeing is that they're trying to lump us all in that sheep row. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have silenced so many people, brothers that want to speak and say something.
Yeah. I think it's
and they
fear, man.
They got us all. You know what I'm saying? Let's, you know what? Hold on, man. We going somewhere else. Definitely. You know what I mean? Let me bring it back. You know what I mean? For him and her. You know what I mean? So, YZ, bro, is there anything that you feel like you left undone in the business? Before we go, I'm getting ready to get ready. But before we go, is there anything that you feel you left undone or that you feel that you could have done better while the shine was on you, while the light was shining?
Actually, yes. There are plenty of things that I feel like I could have done better. But what I do is, we talked about it earlier. I mean, life is about ups and downs. It's about learning from mistakes and being able to move forward. There are plenty of things, and I could use examples, but the truth is, whether I use an example or not, I don't necessarily know if that's important as understanding the fact that failure is a part of every man and woman's life. The key to winning or getting past that failure is utilizing your strength to say, hey, what could I learn from that failure right there so that I don't make that same mistake again? And so, yes, in my life, I wish that we could all take that example as to a way that we can get past our foibles, get past our failures, get past our fears, get past our demons, get past, our prejudices and, our ideas that don't really seem, beneficial for the world as a whole. Because whether we like it or not, we live on one planet, not two. We live on one planet, and we keep failing our planet over and over again. And I think we're going to continue to fail our planet and continue to do it because we don't stop to just put ourselves in that position first. Where do we fail with each other first? Because if we can get, I mean, that's the lowest hanging fruit. It's been sitting in all of our faces forever, right? And it's really a simple solution to it. But we got to always know that, because we're used to seeing it, there's always going to be a few apples that are going to rabble rouse and make you feel different, or make you feel like, you know, I learned this from my dad or my granddad, and this is the way it's going to be. Or so I'm always going to be this way. I'm going to always feel this way. But just because they feel that way doesn't mean it's right. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have to turn everybody. Everything is about majority, right? The majority votes on a particular thing. Guess what? Whether we like it or not, the majority wins. Whether I was with that majority or with the minority, the majority wins, right? So I think the same holds true for people all over the world. We got to realize that our failures are actually our greatest strengths. And if we can figure out how we failed one another, first and foremost, and all it takes is communication. That's it. And I learned over and over how to better communicate. When I was younger, I don't think that I communicated nearly enough. I didn't tell enough people that I cared about them enough. I didn't tell them how much I respected them, how much I admired them, and that I loved them, and that I cared for them, and that I want them to be, you know, prosperous, and that their family is prosperous, and that they're in my prayers. You understand? Like you. And so what I'm saying to you is, I learned from that mistake that I don't ever want to miss that opportunity again. So if I get a chance to talk to my brother that I love and admire and that I respect, I'm going to make sure that I let them know, because guess what? I might not be here tomorrow to tell them, or they might not be here tomorrow for me to tell them. You understand? So it's so important that we learn that pride is a killer. Like, and people will say, you know, I know my pride, but the truth is, you'll sit here and say, hey, I know what my faults are, but you don't do better. You don't do better. That means you're actually saying to yourself, hey, I know what to do, but I ain't gonna do. Well, you ain't learning. You ain't learning. You ain't really learning. You ain't giving yourself the option to do better. For me, those mistakes are always doors for me to say, hey, when I walk through this door again, I'm gonna walk through it differently. I'm gonna walk through it with a better way, a better opportunity. And if I fail, even in that, then I'll just walk through it again, and I'll walk through it differently until I perfect it. So yes, there are many, many things that I've done that I could do over, but all I can ever do is learn from what I did to do better tomorrow or do better now.
Interesting. Right there, people, my man. Why?
I know it's long-winded, bro, but that's how I feel. Sorry.
No. This is your day. This is your day on the show. It's your platform.
It's our day.
Your platform today, bro. That's just what it is. Before I let you go, you might slap me for this question. You might slap me across the screen for this question. But when it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
How much what?
How would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered?
Yeah.
I guess I would like to be remembered as I am, and that people won't add or take away from that. Just that they'll remember that, I was just a average brother who was trying to do, not so average things. And that, as an example, that we all can achieve anything, that we can do anything in our power. We can, we can create clothes, and, like this is something that I've done. We can do anything. We can achieve anything. And I want people to realize, or use my example, that nothing is impossible. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is think about it this way. You're looking at two brothers, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, talking, and we're looking at each other, vibrating with each other, all in the same time, all in real time. And just a few years ago, that was impossible. Or it wasn't impossible, we just didn't get to it yet. And so I want people to understand that anything is possible. And if you remember me for anything, I hope you remember me for trying to be as honest as I could be.
That's what it is. That's my brother YZ, people. That's why I have so much love, respect, and admiration for the man. Thank you, bro. Thank you for spending this time with me. And
thank you, brother. Thank you for reaching out and allowing me to take this time with you, man. Our time is everything. It's more valuable than anything. It's more valuable than any amount of money on the face of this planet. So the very fact that we are able to spend this time together is the most valuable thing of all. So I appreciate you, my brother, for real.
Bro, I want to continue to uplift you and all the things that you're doing. Your companies, may they all thrive in the way that you want to see them thrive, man. I just want to say much love, peace, respect, and you already know. We'll talk on. You know how we do.
Oh yeah, I know how we do, and we got some things to do.
Yeah, we got music to do. That's coming in the next week or two. As soon as you send me those beats, it's on and popping, just like that. Guys, you've been tuned into the Havana Lounge podcast. My guest tonight was the one and only YC, my friend, my brother.
Yes,
one of the dopest MCs I ever heard, and that's just what it is. Guys, tune in next week when my guest will be. My guest name? No. Hey, Garcia. Anyway, guys, tune in next week. That's what it is. Tune in next week and never forget, in the words of the great Curtis Mayfield, that your dream is your only scheme. So keep on pushing and move on up. I'm Melllow Man Ace. This has been the Havana Lounge podcast. That has been my brother YZ. We'll see you again next week. And with that, I say peace, peace, peace.
Peace.